Welcome to the Maureen Pound Show, where we get extraordinary insights from cool business people. And today we're speaking to one of the coolest, Diane, who is an amazing business coach and focuses a lot around mindset. So let's welcome Diana.
Thanks, Maureen.
So before we jump into asking all about being a mindset ninja, would you like to share with us something unique or interesting or quirky about you?
Unique, interesting, or quirky. So something that I did that was interesting very long time ago now, when my sons were quite young, was I was at a work conference overseas and did a fire walk, and I hid it from them for a very long time because I was really nervous that if they found out that their mum had done a fire walk, that they might create that for themselves and try it out in our own backyard.
So they sound like they were adventurous boys.
Oh, yes, and still are.
Excellent. So I love this idea of being a mindset ninja. So tell me a little bit about the term and what it means to you.
Yeah, thanks. Mindset ninja to me means being able to have that self-awareness of what's going on for you in a moment in time, and being able to support yourself and tap into a toolkit of a variety of things that can support you, so that if you are having any kind of stress or challenge, and let's face it, we all have that through our lives, that you're able to bounce back faster.
Yeah.
Take time out. Yeah.
And so so it sounds like having this awareness in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of my favorite sayings is you can't change what you don't notice. So that's the first muscle to start building.
Yeah. And so you can't change what you don't notice. So for people listening, how can you start to notice?
Yeah, great question. So it's really about beginning to tune in to what's happening for you, beginning to notice when your breathing's changing, when you're feeling frustrated, feeling annoyed. It's really about taking a pause, stepping back, and becoming an observer of yourself.
Oh, excellent. So for instance, you know, I'm on the phone with my business partner often, Carmen, and we, you know, would this be an example of it, where you realize you're getting angry with the other person and you just take a step and say, look, I can't discuss that right now, or you know, what is it in a practical sense?
Yeah. So, you know, what quite often happens with a lot of people that I'm working with is very similar to what you started to describe there, Maureen, and that is you're in a conversation with someone. So whether it's in a meeting or a one-on-one conversation, and something is said that triggers you. And when we don't have self-awareness around our triggers, we become reactive. So we react in the moment, and that's usually not a great thing because we're operating at a different part of our brain when we do that. So when we build this muscle of being able to notice, oh, I'm triggered, we can then support ourselves. So my clients begin to notice that, oh, I'm feeling triggered right now. So it might not be the best for me to respond immediately. Perhaps I need to take some deep breaths. Perhaps I need to walk away. Perhaps we need to reschedule the conversation.
Yeah, awesome. And I love this, the concept, you know, put simply around the triggers. So can you give me an example of what might trigger someone, say in the workplace or in a conversation with a loved one? Like, again, practically, what might examples of triggers be?
Yeah, well, a trigger can be anything really. Sometimes it can be a word. So people might use a word that has an impact on you. Sometimes it might be, you're in a meeting and a person isn't acknowledging you in any way. It could be that they're speaking over you. It could be that they've made a comment that you don't agree with, and it could be the way that they made the comment. Sometimes it's not what people do, it's how they do it that has a trigger effect on us. So it can be many and varied. It can be unique to the individual.
Yeah. An example for me I've noticed of a trigger is when happily married couples, the husband goes away for the weekend and the woman says, oh, I'm a single mother for the weekend. And I just noticed that I just get triggered when that's said. But I suppose it's, you have to make a conscious decision if you know that you're being triggered, don't you? Well, that's her reality. It's okay. It's not about me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of it. Once you notice that you're triggered, you then can make a conscious choice about how and if you respond. So, I'll give you a personal example, and hopefully my son's not listening to this, but my youngest son, when he was not quite 18, came home from a trip overseas with a tattoo. And I was quite triggered when I noticed it. And I didn't want to be that ranting, raving mother. I knew I was triggered. So I actually took myself to my own room so that I could get myself together and think about, what is it that I want to say about this? What's the message that I want to get across? And, came back out, and then we had the conversation. So, that's a trigger that really sticks in my mind.
Yeah. And what came up for me from what you said there was deciding what you want to say, if anything. So this is not about always holding it in because you're triggered by a word, but it's really making conscious decisions, isn't it?
Absolutely. Sometimes there'll be things that you'll choose not to have a voice around because you might go, you know what, as you said before, that's just, what's going on for them. Because one thing about being a mindset ninja is not only is it valuable for you, it's valuable for you when you're leading other people, because you can begin to recognize, oh, hang on, they're triggered. And therefore you will react differently as the leader to that.
Yeah. That happened for me recently, where Carmen and I are having a discussion, and she gets triggered if I say, can you just write it down and send it to me? She's really auditory, and I don't want to go into the drama around why that happens, but I did it recently. I said, oh, could you just send it to me? And then I because I knew that she might be triggered, I could then behave differently. So I said, oh, no, actually, maybe we should just chat about it. So I love the way that you've said that it's not only about the awareness for yourself, but the awareness about what other people might be triggered about.
Yeah, it so is. And that's one of the things why this is such a passion of mine. And that is because in learning all of this through my journey, I have used this in the way I coach, in the way I am with my family, the way I have parented, the way I will lead if I'm in a team. It just impacts my everyday life.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like a brilliant tool. What's the advice to people who don't have the awareness yet of their, and they will, like, it's all right to say to be a mindset ninja, but I don't even know where to start. And you mentioned a little bit about noticing what's happening in your body, but you might not connect what's happening in the body to the actual trigger.
Yes, and that takes a while. I actually found that took me quite a while to tune into my body and know when I was there, but I was able to tune into my thinking first of all. It can become quite obvious for us when we're frustrated, angry, annoyed. So noticing those kind of emotions. And I think having a bit of an understanding too about what happens in the brain can be really useful. So that's what I've noticed with my clients, that when they've learned a bit about the brain, they're more easily able to notice, oh, hang on, yeah, there's something going on for me here. My brain has gone limbic. I'm having a reaction here. So just pausing, pause and reflect.
Yeah.
Step back, think. Yeah.
So we don't want to get too heavy, but I'm a bit fascinated about the brain. So tell us a little bit about what it means to go limbic, or what the brain's doing when we react.
Yeah, well, it's the overarching principle of the brain is to check whether something is a threat or whether it's a reward, and we err on the side of threat. So it's constantly scanning our environment to find out, is this a threat? And if there is a threat, your brain sends a message to the rest of your body to get ready to fight, flight, or freeze. And we've all heard that phrase before. And the challenge is when we're in that fight, flight, or freeze, our thinking, that the front part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, is not as clear. So, when we get that email that really annoys us, that we don't respond immediately to it, because if we did, we'd be operating out of that limbic part of our brain. So, perhaps type out, what your response is going to be, but don't hit send. Instead, notice, oh, okay, yeah, I am having that reaction. I'm going to go away, make a cuppa, come back, and then think about, whether I want to respond and how I'm going to respond. So just having that awareness of the brain, whether it's limbic or not, can make a massive difference.
Oh, excellent. So it sounds like it takes the pressure off yourself as well, because if you know that it's part of the being human, then you don't beat up on yourself. You just can notice it.
And absolutely. And the amount of people over the years, and I would have even done it myself, in the early days, and maybe even still from time to time, why is this happening? And then when you think about, oh, okay, hang on, it's not me, it's just my brain, it does humanize it and normalize it. And when you normalize it, you can then go, okay, so where to from here? Yeah.
And I love that that actual physicality of taking the breath. So what what are some small things that people, practical things people can do? So you've mentioned, not sending that email, that, potentially writing it and not sending it because you're not thinking as clearly. And you touched on, I presume, their breathing. What other practical things can people do when they're feeling like it's going to be this, real limbic response?
Yeah, so I think in the first instance, acknowledge it, and I want to say embrace it. And what I mean by embracing it is not trying to push it down. I've certainly been in the past one for trying to push it down, just, I don't want to experience that. Let's just, get rid of that. Really important for us to acknowledge it and just sit with it, because one, emotions are data. So it's not a bad thing that we're having that experience. And that breath, I know we've mentioned it a couple of times, but I feel like it's undervalued. That breath, we know, is one of the main things that supports us. It supports our limbic system to calm down. So tune into your breathing, take those deep breaths where your tummy rises and then let it fall. Just give yourself that opportunity. And the other thing is to just label how you're feeling. It's part of the embracing or acknowledging it. And when we label how we feel, we get to use the front part of our brain as we search for that label. You know, what is it that I'm feeling? Am I feeling anger? Am I feeling frustration? Yeah, what is it? So the breath, labeling, and even being able to look at it from a different perspective. So reframe, put a different lens on, look at it from, you know, what might an outsider looking in think? What might the other person think? What might a fly on the wall think? So there's lots of different tools that you could use.
Yeah. So do you use those in your coaching with people?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And not only do I use it in the coaching, I use it for myself. So it's quite normal for us to be triggered daily, depending on what's going on. And I will call on those tools throughout my day. And with my clients, supporting them to develop, first of all, that muscle, strengthen the muscle, build up that toolkit, and use the toolkit. You know, sometimes we have these things in our toolkit and we forget to use them. So it's really important to embed this as a new behavior, so a habit for you over time. When I get triggered, this is what I do.
Yeah. And I love the way that you actually embracing it, and it's not, not pushing it down. You're saying, and I love that aspect of also labeling it, so that it forces you to actually determine how you're feeling, because sometimes you're feeling stuff and you don't even know.
Yeah. And the other thing I do with my clients is help them to step back and look at their story. So the brain is a meaning-making machine, and we make up stories. You know, we make connections. And sometimes our stories, there's truth, and sometimes there's some untruths in our story. So by supporting someone to step back and examine the story and help them see, you know, what's fact, it helps them to have a shift and to see things differently.
Yeah. So I also liked your expression before, emotions are data. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So when we're having an emotional reaction, it's often because something means something important to us. So it could be that you value, value family. So, you know, that's my number one value. And for me, if I was working on a project and I was asked to spend, you know, this extra time on the project and it was going to impede on my family time, I would have a reaction to that. And so, you know, the reaction's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that I'm not committed to the project or the work. For me, it meant that it was going to have an impact potentially on my family. So, you know, examining that and seeing what does this data tell me? What's the emotion tell me?
Yeah.
It is a gift.
Yeah. And I love that juxtaposition, because sometimes we see emotion as weakness instead of seeing it as a tool.
Yeah.
So do you find that, so how long does it take people to actually start seeing their emotions, you know, differently as data that they can use to perform better and grow, etc.?
Well, you know, how long is a piece of string sometimes? So it depends on the individual, and it depends on how much attention, energy, and focus you put on it. And that's why I personally feel any kind of journey that you're going on around developing this skill, it's important to work with someone on it. Because when you're working with someone, you know, a coach, whether it be me or another coach, or to help you maintain that focus on it, because otherwise things become just a great idea. and we don't embed it. So it takes time to embed things. And, they used to say it takes 28 days. Now they've said that's not necessarily the truth. It depends on what it is. It could be shorter, it could be longer. So the important thing is over a period of time. So I personally like to work with people, over a 6-month period, and that's not every week or anything like that, but once a month, just to keep the focus on it, to build that muscle. And it's like any muscle, right? You don't just go into the gym and do a few weights and bang, it's done. Use it or lose it. You've got to keep going.
Yeah. And so what sort of things do people do when they work with you to learn to use it? Like, how does it work?
So one of the things, what we do is we have a look, first of all, at, what are some of the things that happen in the brain. So we give people that, brain 101. And it's not heavy stuff. I don't like heavy stuff. I like simple, keep it practical. I want to know how I can apply this. So we go through that. I have 10 training modules, not all about the brain, but everything that I use to support myself to be a mindset ninja. And we also help people understand their brain better. And we do that by having a prism brain map, and that gives insight into what really energizes your brain and what zaps your brain of energy. And again, when you've got that awareness, you can use that as a tool, and in deciding what kind of work that you do and where you put your attention, energy, and focus.
Can you just give me some examples before you jump into the next one? So what's an example for someone of zapping their own brain of energy, and what's an example of something that might energize someone else's brain?
Yeah. So my brain in particular loves to be around people and loves to be learning, experimenting, having new opportunities, variety in my life. So I love that. If you get me to really focus on getting a project completed, whilst I can do it, I don't enjoy it so much. I'd rather be in the moment and do the fun stuff. So so it's not to say you can't do these things. It's just more taxing on your brain. So,
yeah. And that's really good for people, because they can not only what role they choose or what they choose to do in their business, but what aspects of it. So, for instance, our business with the virtual assistants, I'm a bit like you. Like, I want to be in the energy and I want to come up with the ideas, but then, and I'll give input, but then I want someone else to do the other part of it. So, so for instance, we're looking at agreements at the moment, and I'm high detail, I can look at it and I can give suggestions, but then to actually put it together and do it all, I don't really want to be the one who completes it.
Yeah. It's like, ooh.
So it's good to have that awareness, because otherwise you feel like, what does it do to your energy if you're doing the ones that are, your brain doesn't like?
Well, it's physically taxing. And if you were to do that for a long time, it would have an impact on your body. So you want to be making sure that you're spending time on those things that do give you energy, because you're going to be more resourceful, more productive, etc. So, if we're in this space of doing stuff that zaps us, where does the joy go? It goes out of your life.
Yeah. And I suppose that's a good way also with leaders, when they're leading teams, to have that awareness of what energizes and what zaps certain people.
Yeah, working with people's strengths. So often we're focusing on what's not right about a person. And if we focused on their strengths and leverage their strengths, they'd be way more productive, and their engagement would be so much higher as well. And how many organizations are looking at how to better engage their teams?
Yeah. It sounds like almost getting back to the basics of the brain.
Well, it really is. And, you know, I said before, I like to keep things simple. And I look at, well, my life. It's about practical, simple things that can just help myself have more pleasure in life, navigate the challenges of life, be more empowered. And that's, you know, what I want for other people as well. Life is pretty challenging. So, yes, you know, we know there's going to be hard things, but let's support ourselves so that we can do that more easily or without beating ourselves up along the way, just riding it as best we can.
Yeah. So it's not, it doesn't sound like creating this, you know, world of utopia just because you have an awareness everything's going to go away. What would you say is the biggest benefit of having this awareness and being a mindset ninja?
Oh, I love that question, Maureen. The biggest benefit. Wow. I would say that you can navigate through life's challenges in a more empowered way.
Yeah. But actually, it feels like taking ownership of it, and yeah, and as you say, being empowered to, even though it's going to be difficult, but you know, you're creating your own adventure or journey.
Yeah, and you can be independent. It doesn't mean that you don't get support from other people, but it's certainly about, you know, it's okay, and you know, I'll get through this. I can be agile and get through this. I do have the tools that I need, and I just need to, you know, one day at a time get there.
Excellent. So it sounds like it's not this quick fix or anything like that, but it's something to continually work on and get better at.
Exactly. And I talk a lot about, you know, being ambitious, getting momentum, and then all of a sudden getting stuck, feeling limited. And this is the cycle, you know, that happens for me and has over a period of time, and what I see for other people. And so what being a mindset ninja does is it helps you to shift from when you do get limited, because it's going to happen. You're a human being, that you explore, and then you can shift through your exploration into being unlimited again. And next time it happens again, you've got this toolkit that you can draw on. So yes, it can be it's not a you know, wow, I'm fixed, hallelujah. It's I'm ready. I've got my mindset ninja equipment that I need to navigate the challenges and be the leader that I know that I can be.
Yeah, and it sounds like a leader for yourself, your family, the workplace, the business, you know, being a leader in life.
Yep, self-leadership. And being a leader doesn't necessarily mean it's about being a manager either. You know, they're very different. You can be like the spiritual leader in your workplace, and nonetheless, you know, these skills support you to do that.
Excellent. So I would highly recommend working with Di to get your that ninja mindset happening. I've worked with Di in the past, and I think she's an absolute legend. She knows her stuff, and she's really good in one-on-one situations where she gives you the time, the space, the energy to unpack your own stuff, because we've all got it, so that you're equipped with new tools into the future. So Di, if people are interested in finding more about working with you, how can they do that?
So a couple of ways. They could go to my website, dianapetty.com.au, and you could also book in a 30-minute Mindset Ninja chat with me by going to mindsetninja-chat.com. That's an obligation-free 30-minute chat where we explore how you could be a mindset ninja. So, it's two easiest ways.
Excellent. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. I've loved chatting to you as always. And I really highly recommend Di. So if you're feeling a bit stuck or feeling that you're a bit reactive or you know, you're just feeling like you're not the leader that you could be in work or life, then contact Di. The website's www.dianapetty.com.au. Okay, thanks, Di. It was lovely talking to you today.
Thanks, Maureen. I love spending time with you.
Thanks. Bye.
So if you'd like to see more interviews with amazing business owners sharing extraordinary insights, click subscribe, then click the bell button, then click all, and we'll notify you.